All right, so we are talking Sleep 101. Sleep is one of the most important things that we can actually optimize when it comes to taking care of our health. And there's probably not barely a day that goes by that our clients aren't telling us that they're struggling with some part of their sleep, whether they can't get to sleep. They're not getting good quality deep sleep. They're not getting enough sleep. And so we felt it was necessary to put together a webinar on sleep. And we're going to go through some basic fundamental foundational approaches, how to optimize sleep. We're going to talk about the side effects of sleep deprivation. We're going to talk about, some of the reasons why people lack sleep and why they're just not getting good quality sleep today. And then we're going to go into some of our tips that you can optimize on sleep hygiene in order to get good quality sleep. There's some really simple things. And as you know, the complexities of the variables differ from person to person, and that's why sometimes you need a more customized approach. And Paula obviously is, that's really what she specializes in, is really customizing it based on the individual's needs and what the stressors that person might be experiencing. We're also going to talk about some aids on the line of nutritional supplements. We're going to talk about red light. We're going to talk about mode taping. We're going to talk about sleep masks, the benefit of those things. So buckle up, people. We are going to start dropping some knowledge bombs right now. Okay, so we're going to put together some good resources, and we have already. We're going to make sure that everyone gets those. That way, based on some of the information we're giving you, if you want to dig a little bit deeper, you will have access to that. So the big thing is, we want to talk about when it comes to the lack of sleep, some of the side effects that people can experience. So when we get into some of the side effects, we will see things like cognitive impairment, mood changes, weakened immune system, increased risk of accidents. Paula, what are some of the other things in terms of side effects that that you might actually experience with clients, working with them, that what's been your experience there?
Probably the most important thing is that it affects the energy they have during the next day. So if they're really, really tired, they're probably not getting really great sleep, as well as increase in appetite. So if your body doesn't get a good night's sleep, it craves carbohydrates for energy. So it's really important to understand that sleep is probably, if you hear a lot of people talking about it, but sleep is pretty much number one to work on if you're dealing with energy issues.
Yeah, so even, with blood sugar regulation, we see that all the time. People that aren't getting sufficient sleep tend to crave carbohydrates. And that can really affect metabolism as well. But, there's cardiovascular issues, diabetes risk, hormonal imbalances, decreased libido, skin aging, poor judgment, and then just chronic conditions. People either, they tend to have a weakened immune system, they tend to be sick a lot. If they have some sort of pain syndrome, inflammation, chronic inflammation, these are things that just become kind of chronic conditions. So let's take a look at, just even a deeper dive, Paul, into like cognitive impairment, like reduced attention, impaired memory, slower reaction. What are some of the things that you would recommend if someone is really having a problem with like cognitive impairment as it relates to sleep?
I think I'd go right into the sleep environment. Like, what is their sleep environment? There's so many people that they don't really even look at their environment. Is their environment cluttered? I don't know. Do you want me to go through the details of that?
Well, if we think about like cognitive impairment, I mean, obviously, that's the one thing that Paula can really dig in a little bit deeper to is,
Yeah.
what's stressing out and creating the cognitive impairment, what part of the brain is being affected. But, even let's look at like even mood changes. I mean, clearly, if people aren't getting enough sleep, we've got increased irritability, stress, anxiety, depression. So a lot of times people will come in with a particular symptom, right? And they would expect, Paula to recommend a specific protocol based on that. But, many times Paul is going to dig deeper and identify what the real root cause is. And sometimes it's just not getting good quality sleep. So, in terms of immune system, obviously we've got increased susceptibility to infections and illnesses. So in terms of what you would do along the lines of dealing with someone with a weakened immune system, what are some of the things that would typically come up that could potentially be lowering the immune system as it relates to sleep? Is it deep sleep? Are they not getting enough? Is it all the above?
Probably more often than not. What we see is a lot of, clients over 50 pretty much. And so what we're really looking at is it's not able to stay asleep. So usually they can get to sleep, but they just can't stay asleep, which is always more of a cortisol or blood sugar imbalance. And so then you're really kind of looking at, when have I last eaten? Did I eat? Is my body's trying to digest food instead of sleep? But really that blood sugar imbalance in the middle of the night is a huge thing that keeps waking people up. And that actually comes from a decrease in progesterone, estrogen, progesterone, but really progesterone as you get into that perimenopause, menopause state. So really trying to focus on when's the last time I ate, and then did I get adequate protein? If somebody's having a dip in blood sugar, I always have them try maybe like a teaspoon of honey at bedtime. Sometimes that just really helps to balance them out throughout the night. It's not necessarily my favorite thing. That's just in order to help until we fix like their adrenals or their pancreas issues that they have. But definitely you're looking at food, and getting an idea of what you need to do, but try not to eat at least 2 hours before you go to bed, preferably 3 hours, to just so that your body has nothing in the stomach. But definitely more of a food-based thing, and stress. Those are the two big ones for the middle of the night.
Yeah, and when it comes to stress, I mean, obviously there's so many types of stress, and stress is anything that knocks the body out of homeostasis or balance. But, I mean, that's the one thing. If we take a look at even emotional stress, I mean, the last thing you want to do is be watching something negative on TV before you go to bed, or reading something negative, particularly if it's on a device, because that's going to work you up. That's going to increase cortisol. You're going to go into more of a sympathetic upregulated state. So when we're in that sympathetic upregulated state, our body's more in fight or flight, not rest and digest. So, a lot of times Paula will use calming minerals for people if they are struggling, maybe with a racing mind. Why don't you kind of give your take on it, Paula, with the anxiety, and then I'll piggyback on some of the stuff you're going to talk about.
The anxiety and stress related to sleep. Yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing that I always find is that we're looking at midlife information, midlife stuff with our clients. So I would definitely have to say that younger people don't usually deal with stress as much, but I think they're getting more on that due to the blue light that they're, looking at their devices all night long before they go to bed. But definitely our middle-aged clients need those calming minerals for sure. I'm finding a lot more needing calcium because the calcium is just a really calming hormone, or a mineral, such a calming mineral. So I know when I was pregnant, even in order for me to get really good sleep, I would just do some basically a whole food calcium, calcium lactate, and it would just like, oh, I would just like calm down and fall right asleep. It was just wonderful. So I would definitely say minerals are the way to go when you're looking at anxiety and trying to get a good night's sleep. So I always look at it: magnesium, calcium, iodine, and zinc are probably the big four.
Yeah, of course, obviously, Paula is so well versed on supplementation and how that can aid in sleep. And of course, my minimalism brain, one of the first things I look at is how is a person breathing, right? So, I mean, obviously, when you are in this heightened sense of this sympathetic upregulated state, like you're in fight or flight, we can move you from that sympathetic tone, that excessive sympathetic tone, to a parasympathetic tone in about 10, 12, 15 breaths, right? And so if you really check into how you're breathing, if you're worked up, if you're feeling anxious, a lot of times you're either breathing really shallow, or you're over breathing. And with over breathing, what you're doing is you're taking the inhale. And when you're taking the inhale, what you're doing is you're upregulating your parasympathetic nervous system. And when you're really focusing on a longer sustained exhale, that's where we're going to upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So what I like to do is a couple of different techniques for breathing to really calm the nervous system, to change brainwave states. And that would either be box breathing, and that's where you could inhale for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4, repeat. So you're just doing a box. So you can start out with 4 and eventually go 5, 6, and so on and so forth. But that's a really great way. Now, the great thing about that is your mind can only hold one conscious thought. So when you're actually going through that cadence, it calms your mind and it connects with you, with your body. Now, another really effective breath ratio for facilitating optimal sleep would be inhaling for 4, pause for 7, exhale for 8. Okay, so that's another great way. Inhale for 4, pause for 7, exhale for 8. Now, if those numbers get too big, then just back it off 1 or 2. And the big thing is you never want to feel stressed when you're breathing. So if you're feeling like that's too much, then just back it off and find your rhythm. But when we're talking about brain waves, when we are just about ready to go to sleep, we're going to shift our brain waves. So when we're thinking cognitively, we're deep in thought, we tend to have more beta activity. And what we want to do is we want to get into theta. So we're not asleep, we're not awake, we're just kind of in that Zen state just before sleep. And then the deep sleep is delta. And so in order to get there, we really have to calm our nervous system down. So, the one thing Paul and I always talk about, if someone's struggling with their sleep, there's either an emotional component or there's a physical component. If you can't sleep, there's always cause and effect, right? So we have to just get to the bottom of it. And sometimes if you look at some of these tips that we're going to give you, some of the things you're going to talk about, maybe articles you'll read, podcasts you'll listen to, remember, they're dealing with the average person. And there's no such thing really as an average person. So there's certain things that are going to work, foundational principles that'll work for everybody. And then sometimes we have to dig deeper. And that's the benefit of really coming in and getting a more customized approach based on the stressors you're experiencing. And wouldn't you say that that's a big part, Paula, as far as really getting to the root cause where you've really been able to make the biggest changes with people's sleep issues?
Yeah, I mean, I just had somebody today, it was like, as much as we worked on a lot of other things, the one thing that really tipped that needle in the right direction was working on her sleep. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually sleeping amazing. She goes, I wake up, I might go to the bathroom once, but I can go right back to sleep. She goes, I have not been like that in years. And her energy showed it. Like everything seemed to be better. She was so much happier. Her mood was better. Her energy's better. I mean, it was just like, I'm like, this is great. I mean, because we've been working on all sorts of other things, but when we kind of really got to the root cause of her sleep, and right for hers, it was, you know, a mineral. So if we get to the root cause of what that deficiency is, and then we're able to, you know, help support that, now, I mean, that's dramatic for her life, you know, being in, I think she's probably about 68, right around that age. So for her to be able to sleep again is like a dream for her. I mean, her mood's so much better too. She's happier.
Yeah, you know, you think about it, we're sleeping roughly about a third of our life, and it's such a critical part of sleep or health optimization, but people will just continue to try and battle it. And when I say battle it, really they just more than anything put up with it. You know, they're not really getting to the root cause. And unfortunately, some people will start to lean on, you know, more of a pharmaceutical approach, right? So they're taking a drug instead of really identifying, like, what's the root cause of me not being able to sleep. So let's go into why so many people experience uncomfortable and stressful sensation and not being able to sleep. So the big thing is kind of the overstimulation, constant exposure to external stimuli, feeling the need to stay updated and in control, technology. So Paula, let's go through, first of all, the external stimuli, you know, that people might have in their bedroom when they're sleeping.
Oh gosh, the first thing I say is get rid of your phone and from the bedroom. Get it out of the phone, get it out of that bedroom. And then people are like, oh my gosh, what about my kids calling and stuff? I'm like, put it at least in your bathroom if you have to have it on. And then if you do have it next to you, please put it on airplane mode. So it's not sending the signal all night long. Our bodies are not designed to have all of that energy going through our body in the middle of the night. Another thing would be light. So even a night light, you get up in the middle of the night and you have to go to the bathroom, and 5 seconds of light in your eyelid or in your eye. Your eyelids are really thin too, but 5 seconds of light and it's absolutely stopped your good deep sleep and REM sleep from happening. So it is not good. So, but if red light is shown not to do that. So we have red light, night lights. So it's good to have like red light night lights. I also have this light, which is a red light lamp. And so that's one I'm going to read by at night too. Or you can get red light bulbs that you can put into your lamps in the bedroom. Keeping your bedroom decluttered is huge.
Right here,
Yeah.
red light.
Red light.
Right on our bedside. It's just a bulb that you put in. Like so the lamp that Paula has actually is a specific red light lamp, but now you can actually get light bulbs that are just red light bulbs. But like Paula was talking about, like the night lights, it's so nice to have that night light. If you do have to get up and go to the bathroom, then you're not being overly stimulated with that really bright light, but you can see. So yeah, very good stuff. So what are some of the other external stimuli, Paula, that?
I would definitely say the TV in the bedroom. Okay. We might be a little guilty of that, but we definitely have
yeah.
You might be a guilty, but we have the TV in the bedroom, which I know you're not supposed to have the TV in the bedroom. It's one of those things that we're always thinking we need to work on. But as long as we're getting a good sleep, I'm not too worried about it. But if you're having problems sleeping, do not have the TV on. Do not have any electronics on in your bedroom for 2 hours before you go to sleep. Your bed is for sleeping or relaxation. That means you can read a book with a red light lamp. That's just fine. If you need to have white noise, some people really love white noise. So some people just sleep dramatically better if they have that white noise going on. So they're not distracted. because as you get older, you don't sleep as deep. You have those more light sleep times. So really important to understand that your environment is really important. So if you're like going to hear every bird outside or something, having an air purifier in your bedroom or having some sort of white noise might be super beneficial. So you always have to think about like sound and then light. So the light would be really, there is light all over in your room, these little lights, even the light on the TV, that little green that's lit up. You want to make sure all of those, either everything is blacked out, or you can have room darkening shades and keep everything dark. You can put little, I think it's like electrical tape that you can put over those little lights so that the light doesn't come through it. Some people get really radical and they bring it to all their hotel rooms as well, which is fine. You can do that too. Like basically for the, all the little lights that are in the room, the fire detector, fire alarm and all that kind of stuff. So really important to make sure that you have that. And if you don't have it where it's still light in the room, then we recommend a sleep mask. So we talk definitely about some different sleep masks. So there's 2 different kinds of sleep masks. I would say that one is this big mulberry silk one. So this one, if you're worried about your hair, this thing's great. So you just put it on here and away you go. That one's a good one. I have another mulberry silk one that this one has, this has little cutouts in the inside for your eyes. So you can put this mask on and then you cannot see anything with this one. So this blocks out all light. So you're not going to look that cute, but you're going to get much better sleep. So light, sound, and then comfort. I would definitely say the other thing is that don't have stuff in your bed that's not like super comfortable. Make sure your pillow is comfortable. I'm sure, Rob, you know of some different pillow or how you should have your pillow in order for your spine to be aligned. It's really important too. So feel, so just think of senses, your sight, your hearing, your touch and feel, and making sure your mattress is comfortable and all those things. And then they always say trying to keep your room as clean as possible with no clutter. You'll sleep better as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the blue light, like so from your electronic device, whether that's your phone or an iPad or a TV, when those devices are emitting that blue light, it's actually suppressing your body's ability to produce melatonin. And so, because a lot of times people are like, okay, well, why shouldn't I do the blue light? Right. So we don't necessarily want to just lean on, taking extra melatonin. Sometimes we have to identify what's potentially suppressing our own melatonin. And, the thing about it is, if we take a look at what a person's doing in terms of sleep hygiene, or what are you doing on a nightly basis to optimize your sleep, most people just aren't doing enough. And Paula talked about people taping some of those, like for instance, the smoke alarm, or they're taping like the DVR player, or whatever emits lights. People will say, well, I'm wearing a mask, I don't have to necessarily do that, which is true. However, if you get up and you take your mask off, like Paula was saying, even that little bit of stimulation is enough to actually create some issues getting back to sleep. So we got to think about all those things. Now, one of the trickiest things about having a spouse that you're sharing the bedroom with is everything from temperature to sounds to smells. I love smells. I like essential oils. My wife does not necessarily like a lot of essential oils. So sometimes some of these things can be a little trickier. And then I like the white noise, and Paula likes it quiet. So sometimes what I'll do is I actually have a headband that actually has built-in speakers. So I will actually sometimes do like a meditation where I'll actually put it on beta brain waves. and then it will have just this something called binaural beats. So I'm working both hemispheres of my brain to really rebalance and optimize that beta activity. So that doesn't disrupt Paula's sleep, and then it helps me really dial into where I want to get to, which is that deep delta sleep. So again, sometimes when you're dealing with another person, one of you might run hot, one of you might run cold. Sometimes that's a little bit trickier. So what are some strategies, Paula, that, we might be able to implement if, we're running into that situation? I mean, it could be everything from a hard bed versus a soft bed. It's crazy because if, like Paula and I, a lot of times we're opposite with some of this stuff. She likes a soft bed, I like a hard bed. But the reality is, even like with room temperature, that's something that science has proven. A cooler room temperature is really going to be best for everyone. So room temp, what's optimal for that, Paula?
From what I hear, it's like 65 to 67 degrees is ideal for your best sleep. And I am like rocking that. I just absolutely love that. Being in menopause, I like my room nice and cold. I don't like it warm. That definitely doesn't help my sleep. So, but I think it really comes down to each person as well, because I think if you run cold and you're normally at 74 degrees and you're like, you know what? I'm going to try to drop it to 72 while I'm sleeping, and you'll probably sleep a lot better too. So I think it just depends on the temperature of the people in the room, and just kind of play around with that and see where you're at, where you get your best sleep, where you feel your best. Really cool room is definitely important as far as temperature goes, but we didn't touch on Wi-Fi. So when you look at electromagnetic radiation, I find a lot of people are sensitive to that. That means if you have the dish right above your bedroom, you've got the Wi-Fi router right somewhere close to your bedroom, you're not going to get as good sleep. And then speaking of that, we're going back to the Apple Watches again. People like to track their sleep with their Apple Watches. Really high amounts of electromagnetic radiation going through their body, which means that Apple Watch could be the thing that's actually affecting your sleep negatively. So again, you're looking at more like the Whoop wristband or the Oura Ring if you want to track your sleep, that don't have all that electromagnetic radiation in it.
Yeah, so the body works best on the men's cycle, and that stands for minimal electrical neuromuscular stimulation. And so that Apple Watch, Wi-Fi signal, smartphones, that creates a lot of electrical disruption with our natural circuitry. So that's what can really stress out our nervous system. And so it seems like it's something that would be no big deal, but time and time again, in fact, I don't think there's a person that we've ever tested that tested favorable for an Apple Watch, meaning it didn't stress their nervous system out to some degree. And some people have greater sensitivities to the electromagnetic pollution that exists in this world. And part of the reason is in and by itself, this electromagnetic pollution your body might be able to handle it. But then you start talking about food stress and heavy metals and chemicals and emotional stress. And the next thing you know, your cup is running over and you are not able to handle this stress. And bada boom, bada bing, you have a symptom. And so we have to make sure that when we look at a symptom, we don't necessarily just think about one thing. Many times it's multiple things, but sometimes, as they say, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? So it's that one stressor that kind of throws you over the edge. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so ways to combat technology and light-related sleep issues. So one of the things is just setting your device to the lowest brightness setting. Paul is on me about this all the time, right? I tend to have my screen a little brighter, and she's like, "My gosh, what are you doing? You've got to get that. And you know, sometimes it's completely off my radar, but you know, a lot of times Paul and I will be wearing like blue light blocking glasses, so we're reading something. So if I'm doing that, sometimes I will just have it on a brighter screen. But I think that's what's very beneficial is if you can have an accountability partner, i.e. a spouse, who, you know, you guys are in the safe space and you bring it to your attention, because sometimes I'm oblivious to stuff and Paul's like, what are you doing? Right? You know, you're doing X, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I am. So I think just the awareness, A, and then if you have that accountability partner who can kind of call you out on some of those things, that's also really, really good. So let's talk, Paula, about maybe like routines, you know, like what's an optimal sleep hygiene routine? You know, why is that critical?
Yeah. I mean, I think to go back to light, I was also thinking that at night, one of the things I like to do is definitely not have overhead lights. You're not supposed to have overhead lights on, because that's stimulating that the sun is up to your brain. So you really want to have the lights low or red light. So like you at night. So it really important to try not to use lights. Or really, really low lights, even in the winter, towards nighttime. So you want to stimulate to allow your body to increase the melatonin as it gets later and later. So it's important to just understand that that light is really important. So it's your daylight will help you. So many people swear by walking outside in the morning, and you can do that in the summer, but going outside for even just 5 minutes in the morning to get that natural sunlight, that does is it shuts off that melatonin and allows your body to get into that sympathetic state so you can get going. So you're not dragging. And then at night, if you have the lower light, so if you have things lower in the environment, the light lower, or the red light, it's actually stimulating, or not stimulant, it's actually calming. It's like tells your brain like sunset. Everything's coming like the sunset. So your body's like, okay, now I can calm down, start increase my melatonin. So it's some sleep hygiene things I would just say, just make sure that keeping your phone out of the bedroom, if not airplane mode. Just have your sleep mask there. Have your mouth tape. We look just absolutely so funny at night. It's kind of crazy. We don't look very sexy, but very nice. We look a little crazy. So we got our masks on, and then we have our mouth tape, and we both like kind of different mouth tapes. So I mean, I'll have you go through why you would want a mouth tape, but there's two different kinds of mouth tape. So the kind I like is a little X. So you just put it like this, and it just holds your lips together. If you need to, you can definitely breathe, but you can breathe through the sides. But I like it. It just kind of holds your lips together so that I mean, all the statistics show that you get such better sleep when you mouth tape. And we notice that, even our daughter notices that if she mouth tapes. So she's been doing that since she's 10. So we do that. And then Rob has a different kind of mouth tape that goes straight across. So you'll probably show everybody that too. So I'd say definitely light clothing, keep everything cool, and get that mouth tape and sleep mask. Those are kind of the basic things that I always want to do. And the red light lamps are awesome.
Yeah,
Night lights, yep.
I would say really the biggest game changer that we've had with our family has been mouth taping. And people, when they first hear mouth taping, if they don't know anything about it, I think it sounds barbaric. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not like you're putting duct tape around your mouth. It's basically just to seal the lips together. In fact, you know, they've done lots of different studies, and tribes, when the baby would actually start to open their mouth and breathe through the mouth, they would gently close that, because they knew that if the baby was breathing through the mouth, it would create a number of health problems. Now, the one thing about when you mouth breathe, so what people don't understand is sometimes even just opening your mouth a little bit, it'll dry the mouth out, and that can create cavities. It can create bacteria. It can create gum problems. Another thing that happens, you tend to facilitate the upregulation of your sympathetic nervous system. So what happens is you overbreathe, and then you start to go through your chest instead of facilitating the diaphragmatic breathing by breathing through your nose. So lots of benefits. And remember, you're just sealing the lips. Like if at any time you feel like you have to take it off, it's very simple to take off. But when you nasal breathe, you have an increase in nitric oxide. We have dilation of blood vessels. It warms the air. It filters the air. You know, there's a laundry list of benefits. But one of the things is our daughter, when she was younger, was a horrific mouth breather. And when we started to get her finally taping her mouth, in fact, when we first started, you know, I'd come in the morning and be on her pajamas, in her hair, whatever, like half the time she couldn't keep it on. And, you know, maybe she just like, oh, it was itching. But then as things went on, what we found is she was just sleeping so much more restful. And then as she got older, she started to ask for us, oh, I'm almost out of mouth tape. Well, what happens is when you breathe through your mouth when you're younger, what it does is it narrows the craniofacial structure and it crowds the teeth. Braces, anyone? So when we took our daughter's teeth were so crowded because of years and years of mouth breathing. And when we took her to the first orthodontist, they wanted to pull 4 teeth. And based on, you know, what we had studied with mouth pathology and acupressure points and the relationships of what teeth have to the rest of the body, Paula and I were like, no, we definitely don't want the teeth pulled. And when I started talking to this orthodontist about that science, he just poo-pooed it, and he's just like, yeah, that has nothing to do with it. So we ended up getting a referral from the biological dentist we see, and they referred us to this other orthodontist. And when I had that same conversation, she knew exactly. She said, oh, do you study so-and-so's work? And I said, yeah, I've done quite a bit of research with his work. And she said, well, this is exactly what we believe. So they put an expander in. And then, of course, she was mouth taping and facilitating that process with the nasal breathing. But she was able to naturally expand this craniofacial structure, and the teeth dropped down beautifully. And so if you catch it early enough, obviously with kids, then, you know, of course, you don't have to do anything like pulling teeth. But, you know, just mouth breathing alone can be so disruptive to the quality of your sleep. So if you pick up one thing during this webinar, just make sure you investigate mouth taping and the benefits of that, because it has really been a game changer. And there's rarely a night that Paul, and in fact, Paul and I track our sleep and everything with our Oura Ring. And when I take a look at my breath rate, how many times I'm breathing a minute, if I don't mouth tape versus when I do, it's always 1 to 1.5 breaths a minute more when I don't use my mouth tape. So, you know, it's like we actually have real-time statistical evidence from the data that we get from our sleep tracking. So anything you want to add there, Paula?
I think that's good.
Okay, so we got a question. The question is, do you recommend taking naps? Hello, Paula. Do you recommend taking naps?
I would say as long as they're not over 20 minutes, absolutely yes.
Yeah. I
If
think
you're
the-
tired, you're better off just going down and laying there. So even if you're in a parasympathetic state, which is basically in a sleep state, or you're laying back, I've had people that all of a sudden they're just really tired and they're at work. And then I'm just like, just go out to your car during your lunch break and just lay down for like 20 minutes, even close your eyes. You may or may not fall asleep. But you'll just wake up feeling so much more refreshed. But don't go too long. You don't want to sleep more than 20 minutes. Because then you'll start getting into the other brain waves that actually will make you more tired. And then all you want to do is sleep. So keep them at 20 minutes if you go to sleep.
Yeah.
But resting your eyes and laying back is beautiful for your system and helping to refresh.
Yeah, and even just doing like some deep diaphragmatic breathing or some box breathing to upregulate more parasympathetic activity and get in that really relaxed state. I'm a real big fan of the binaural beats or brainwave entrainment, where you can actually YouTube it and put in like theta or delta brainwaves, and it'll actually come up with a frequency to music. So if you want to really concentrate, then you would actually use like an alpha or gamma brainwave setting, and then that will help you really get into that focus state. But just to really relax, I like to maybe put on some theta and just really focus on breath work. And then, like I have a lot of clients that when they come in and they're on the PEMF mat, I'm running like a 15, 16-minute cycle, and probably over 50% of them fall asleep. And I mean, they are out and they wake up so refreshed, right? Because like Paula said, it's under that 20-minute period. So they're not going into rapid eye movement. They're not getting into that deeper state of sleep, because that's when you're going to feel groggy. And that's potentially where it can really disrupt your sleep at night. So, okay. Anything else you want to add there, Paula?
I don't think so.
Okay, so let's talk about like caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine and alcohol and the potential of disrupting the sleep. So why don't you talk about that?
Well, caffeine, you want to keep it about 10 hours before you go to bed. So you want to so if you're going to go to bed at 10, make sure you have your last caffeine has to be before noon, which is actually a good rule for most people, keeping it before noon. Some people are more sensitive and some people are less sensitive. So you kind of have to play it by ear, but that's kind of the general rule. As far as alcohol is absolutely horrible for sleep, just horrible. Like if I even have a glass of wine, my heart rate variability is through the tank. It is bad. And that's not good. That's not good for your heart. So really important to understand that.
Hold on. Why don't you
Alcohol.
just explain heart rate variability and what that means and why that's not a good thing?
Well, heart rate variability is it's like the energy, or it's the time space between the beats of your heart, right? Or so if you have your heartbeat, so in between that, there should be a fluctuation, the variability of the energy between it. So sometimes it's short and sometimes it's long. And so you want it to be variable. And if you have alcohol, you can show on a heart rate monitor that it's going to be like this. Like you just think like a really low level versus okay, this one's high, this is low, this is high, this is low throughout the night. And then basically I can always look at that. If I track my heart rate variability and if I look at my deep sleep, those are the two things. If those are good, I feel good, no matter what anything else says. So I kind of look at that to say, this is how I'm going to feel. And then if you are going to drink alcohol or things like that, then it's like there's definitely some things that I use for people to just help their body recover. So for sure, the magnesium at night to calm the heart rate, because the heart rate goes up with alcohol. So just trying to drive that heart rate back down again. is really important. And then, black currant seed oil is probably a really good one I like for, people so that they don't get the hangover, just getting that good fatty acid in them. There's a lot of other things you can do too, but yeah, alcohol, not great. I'm sorry. And I do love my caffeine, so. But yes, those things are, once you track, you realize, oh, this isn't very good for me or my sleep. So I'd keep it to a minimum. Both, actually.
Yeah, I was at a training event and one of the other practitioners had a couple of drinks and he had showed me, this was like a week ago. He was out with friends and I think he had 2 drinks and he said it affected his sleep score for 2 days. So it wasn't just the night, it was the next night that it affected as well. So yeah, it's amazing. It's not just necessarily that night, but you know, sometimes it's the next night as well. And then in terms of caffeine, I mean, people are going to metabolize caffeine at different rates, but it's still a good idea to get most of your caffeine done before, you know, I mean, certainly you don't want to go into the late afternoon. I tend to be a very good metabolizer of caffeine, but I still try and do most of my coffee, you know, have it done by noon. So, but you know, that's one of the things. Everybody's a little different, but alcohol is going to really negatively affect pretty much everyone. Would you agree, Paula?
It is for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
is a poison. Your body is trying to excrete it out. So that's why it's awake. The time frame that your liver heals and dumps toxins is between 1 and 3 in the morning. So 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. And so if you actually are drinking, your liver is going to be waking you up around 1 to 3 because your liver is just trying to dump these toxins and it's overstressed. So the sleep quality during those times is not good. And those are your prime times for sleeping, between 1 and 3. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, you're midway between, you know, obviously you're going to get the majority of your growth hormone released for repair between 10 and 2, and then psychological repair starts around that time. So yeah, that's where definitely cognitive impairment can come in but let's talk about the various supplements that a person might utilize for sleep. What are some of your favorites that you might recommend to people?
Yeah, of course, I always like to test because there's different reasons why people are not sleeping. So I might have to do a blood sugar, I might have to do stress support. But some of the basic stuff that I really, really, really like, if somebody's having pain, so somebody is really just waking up because they have pain, I definitely say omega-3s. Omega-3s are key. So people that have fibromyalgia or they wake up in pain, like their body's hurting, then that just helps to calm their body down so much. So I love tuna omega-3 oil. I also like the Biotics BioOmega. As far as stress, so if stress is the reason you're getting up and your mind's racing, you can't stop thinking, I definitely say magnesium. So I like 3 different magnesiums. I like the Biotics Act Mag Plus. That's a powdered form. That's really a heart one. That's really good for your heart. So it's got the calming B vitamins in it. It's got the calming B vitamins in it. Has a little bit of I don't think that has. Sorry. It's got magnesium and then it's got the calming B vitamins. So it's a powder drink, really good for your heart. So you can drink that at night, help to calm you down. It does not have the effect of the magnesium flush as far as your gut goes, like flushing out your bowels like some of the magnesiums do. This is more of a heart-based one. And I find 9 times out of 10 why people are not sleeping, it's a heart issue. It could be that the stress is affecting the heart, but if you address the heart and the nervous system, you definitely are going to get better sleep. So that's a must for anyone with any type of heart issues, that powdered drink. We have the Magzyme, that's another 3 different kinds of magnesium. I like that one. And then I make like magnesium lactate as well. So I usually test for that. And that's a whole food one. And then the other product that I really love is the Alpha Theta Ultra PM. So now that one is really awesome. So that one's got the calming B6. It's got L-theanine, which is really known for calming the nervous system. It's got lemon balm, passion flower. So just really nice things to help calm the body down. It has 5-HTP.
Let's talk about when are people going to be taking this? Is this something they would take?
Yeah, at night. Yep. All of this would be at night.
Okay.
All of this would be at night. The Alpha Theta Ultra PM. So that one's also got the 5-HTP that's really good for mood. You're really looking at neurotransmitters as an issue for sleep as well. This will help the GABA receptors. This helps the serotonin. So we got the 5-HTP, and it also has a little bit of melatonin. So it's got 3 milligrams of melatonin. Now that's key. You don't want a lot of melatonin. You want the lowest amount to give you the best results, because you do not want to feel like hungover the next day with like too much melatonin. So we have that, which I really love. That product's awesome. I would start with that. And then if you like just melatonin with B6, then we have a spray that we absolutely love. We love that melatonin spray. So you just spray it underneath your tongue, and within 10 minutes you are out. I mean, and that has, in 10 sprays, it has like 1.5 milligrams of melatonin. People cannot believe how good it works, but there's not a lot in there. It's just enough, because as you get older, your natural melatonin it's a hormone. It actually just drops. It starts to dissipate. So just having a little bit is really good in there to help. And then we have a product called De-Stress. So that one is it's a peptide that comes from breast milk that actually has a real calming effect on all of your stress hormones. So we really like that too. And that's a Biotics product. So those are kind of the ones that we look like. Those products you can get through us, or most of them through most of these through our website as well. And we can, are you going to link those?
Yeah,
Like the different names?
Yeah, we'll put a link in there. And
okay.
The one thing too, I think that's super important for people to understand is, when it comes to a lot of the terminology, a lot of the supplements, exercise, things become so watered down and bastardized as more and more people learn about them. It becomes more and more competitive. And so you really have to be careful with the selection of the quality and the purity of what you're taking, because, Paul and I have been to trainings and we worked with, world-class herbologists that they talk about some of these companies aren't even picking the right part of the herb. And then they're saying it has XYZ herb in it. And it's like, there's no medicinal qualities of this component. So, just really, really be mindful. Just because, you read an article or you listen to someone say, well, this is something that everyone should take. Paul and I never liked that dogmatic approach. We realize that everybody is very different, very unique. But obviously, when we're talking to the masses, we're talking about here's basic, fundamental, foundational principles. And then sometimes, again, we just have to get into more customization and identify if a person can't sleep, why can't they sleep? What's really stressing out their nervous system? Because we don't want to use supplements like a pharmaceutical in just a more natural state. We want to really get to the root cause. And if your body's not producing, like Paul said, not producing the melatonin, that's the perfect time, then you're probably going to want to supplement. If you're doing things that are suppressing your own melatonin, i.e. you're in front of blue screens and doing some of those things, then many times we have to take a look at, is the body lacking the nutrition, or is there a toxin that is stressing the body out? So it's that balance, and it's that identification of what is really needed to get to the root cause and really fix the problem.
I also wanted to say that the other products that we're talking about, like when we're talking about the mouth tape and we're talking about the masks, those we got on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the one thing is, even so we've got like three different kinds, even the 3M tape. I mean, you can use that to seal. But part of this is a little bit, I think Paul and I have literally tried like what, 10, 12, 15 different brands. We've tried all kinds. Some of them, what you'll find is the adhesive, it sticks really nice. Sometimes, it's like, especially for guys with facial hair, um,
Yeah.
then you're probably gonna have to experiment, see which one's best for you. But, I think part of this is just kind of your own listening to your own internal wisdom, right? Just checking in what you need. And then sometimes you just have to lean on a health professional to give you the guidance that, to really steer you in that direction of really getting to the root cause of, what your needs are.
If you're also sensitive to adhesive, they have a hypoallergenic one as well on there.
Yeah. So, in terms of essential oils, again, that's something, like for instance, lavender can be very relaxing, and I like lavender. But again, I live with a spouse, named
Who does
Paula,
not like
that
lavender?
uh, just cannot stand lavender. So that's why you have to communicate with with your partner, and then have that respect for that partner, and then just see, okay, what works for you, what works for me, and let's come together and identify what's going to be the best for us. And you know what? Here's kind of a hotly debated topic, I think sometimes, and that's, one spouse, sleeping in this bedroom, another spouse sleeping in this bedroom. And sometimes, if you've got a spouse that's a heavy snorer, or, they're up later, that can disrupt your sleep. Sometimes it boils down to you have to do what's best for you. And, if you don't take care of you and you
And
don't,
your relationship.
and the relationship, yeah. But, the reality is, if you don't take care of you, you can't be at your best for others. So I think it's important to just identify, what's going to be best for you, and then um, actually honor that for both of you. So I got one more question here before we wrap it up. It looks like someone had a question on, does mouth tape help with snoring? So mouth tape can help significantly with snoring because so your tongue should be on the roof of your mouth, right behind your teeth. That's a proper resting physiological position for your tongue. But what happens is that musculature, there's a couple of different muscles that put your tongue or hold that tongue in that position, that resting physiological position. Well, that atrophies over time. And when people mouth breathe, then their tongue slips back there. And then that's really what causes snoring. So just even losing 10 pounds can significantly decrease the decibel level of your snoring. So that's one thing. But mouth taping can really, really prevent that intense snoring. I will say position is important. Most people, when they snore, they're basically going to be on their back, and that's when their head falls back, the tongue rests or comes out of that resting physiological position. But in terms of facilitating restful sleep and optimizing things, mouth taping will have a profound impact on the snoring, as well as, weight loss, and then also positioning as well. But if you live with a partner that snores, one of the things you really have to pay attention to is how long are they without oxygen? How long are they going? Because they could have a real serious sleep issue that sometimes requires medical intervention. But again, there's so many variables that go into that. Um, that would be way too extensive of a question to go into. But the big thing is listen and observe sometimes how your partner is breathing, how they're sleeping. Because I think it's important to kind of communicate. And Paul and I do that all the time. Like, there's times like I might get on my back, and for the most part, I'm a pretty quiet sleeper, but every once in a while, like I'll be in a bad position, my tongue drops down and I'll snore, and Paul will give me the old sharp elbow, and a lot of it. But yeah, so Paul will tell you that I've had my stopwatch out before at night, and I'm like, geez, you were breathing at X amount of breaths per minute.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, she's not real
I'm
thrilled.
like, you're actually, I feel him taking my pulse. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Only out of
That's a
love.
little
Only out of
extreme
love.
on my end.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you're in my laboratory at night, and I have to take advantage of collecting data. So thank you for that. But I think what's important to understand is, Paul and I practice what we preach. That doesn't mean we're perfect. We have our own challenges. We're always working through it, but we're trying to get better. And what's great is when you have a supportive spouse and you guys can come together and just elevate and optimize each other's health for the betterment of your health and the relationship and your family's health. And so, hopefully, if you're watching this, you can get your partner to watch it and just come together, share some of these things, and just elevate to a healthier level. So we will have the resources that we talked about available to you. We'll have some stuff on mouth taping. I'll send that out, and then a couple of different things on supplements that you can use to facilitate restful sleep. And if you have any questions about some of the information you got, you want to schedule an appointment to get a full evaluation, whether it's a breathing evaluation, whether it's an evaluation from Paula to identify exactly what supplements you might need to customize that approach for you, give our office a call. You can reach us at 952-220-7201. You can go to our website at thebodyprojectstudio.com. You can fill out a form. Someone will get back to you. But until we see you next month for our next webinar, go ahead, make it a great day. You certainly do deserve it. And thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.